Hey, everybody, and welcome back yet again to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ and Addison here, and this is one of my favorite kinds of shows. Well, again, every Wednesday, one of us will message each other with a GIF. Like, I'll just search Wednesday, scroll, and not look and click a button. Today was a very cute pug with his tongue hanging out. I loved it. But again, rant. Hey, got ideas? Nope. LOL. And this one, and it hit me like an idea hit me, and I love these kinds of shows because it is questions that I need answered, and I get to ask Addison's advice, and he can't lie because everyone's listening, everyone's watching for his advice. So it's like he can't mislead me to try and screw me over in TA 11 or something. Like, this has to be real. So I get to learn stuff here. So I want to talk about a couple of players here. I didn't actually look to see if he went with all the players I listed or anything, but the first one is not Dallas Goedert because we're not there yet. I wanted to go top tier, and asking for Kelsey and Andrews, honestly, it's just like, we know what they are, we know who they are, and I mean, their prices, it'll just hurt my feelings how low the Travis Kelce trades are, because that man is still the tight end one in my heart and in fantasy football, so I don't get why he gets traded for so little. But Kyle Pitts, to me, was the first question, because it's really tough to value Kyle Pitts these days. At the end of last season, while Pitts was hurt, when the Falcons installed Ritter into the offense, it's not that they shifted away from being as run heavy as they were, which clearly they're not going to do now that they have Bijan also, but the passing game just got better. And of course, since Drake London was the only decent pass catcher there, he was seeing 12 to 14 targets a game. Now, what does that mean when Pitts comes back? It's going to be a little tough to split up. And again, this is going to be most likely a run-first offense. How do you have a run-first offense with Drake London and Kyle Pitts? That's what I want to know, but not the point. I'm just going to get into the first trade, and then you'll go. First 16-team one quarterback. I love it because, first of all, that makes the positional advantage even bigger, because there's going to be more teams starting bad tight ends. The first trade we have is Kyle Pitts and Michael Pittman for Chris Olave and the 211, which is pick 27. So Kyle Pitts coming in at 618, Michael Pittman 371 for a total of 990, Chris Olave 762, 211, still coming in at 49 for a total of 811. I do like Michael Pittman. I think it's unfortunate that he's going into his age 25/26 year with a rookie quarterback, because usually rookie quarterbacks don't sustain top 12, almost never top 24. And every year is the year Michael Pittman takes that step because of what he's done with crap quarterbacks, which means we need to push it back another year. Talent-wise, I do keep him at that 372 area. So, yeah, I really do like Pittman, and it kind of sucks the situation he's in, which, again, completely ignoring the 211 in this, because that does not factor.
Yeah.
You're right. I agree with this. I get that the value in the analyzer does lean pretty heavily to the Pitts and Pittman side. I think it's fair because you should be overpaying for Olave anyway. So I think this is fair in general. And if my team is, I have a few teams like this. I have a few teams that are very, very bad. But I'm me, so I have Olave, Waddle, and Devonta Smith. And if I felt the need, if that's all I had and I needed to split that apart, I would be good sending Olave away for Pitts and Pittman.
Yeah, that's how I view it on both sides. Is if you're moving away Olave for Pittman and Pitts, is you're not losing a wide receiver starter and you're gaining the tight end advantage of having Kyle Pitts, who probably, I mean, if he has 100 targets this year, that's probably going to make him a top 5 tight end just because he's one of 5 tight ends who see 100 targets. So that's just the nature of the position. And that's going to be really valuable to have in a 16-team league. But I do agree with you on the other side. If you're just Pitts might just kind of be meh, and I can replace a large majority of his production with Evan Ingram, with David Njoku, with, maybe you hit on Dulcich or Chig or someone else that breaks out this year. And Pittman is just kind of the meh wide receiver 3 with some wide receiver 2 upside because of Anthony Richardson and just because of how, he plays the game. He's just really kind of just low ceiling, high floor. just going to Chris Olave and just, like you said, consolidating into one piece, one player, and filling your tight end spot with somebody else, then I definitely see that on that side as well. I think yeah, I agree. This is a really good trade on both sides. And I do think that it would take Pitts and a wide receiver in Pittman's caliber to go get Olave. If I had Chris Olave, I wouldn't want to drop any lower really in the wide receiver department.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move to the next one. Speaking of tight ends that should probably end up with around 100 targets, this is 12-team one quarterback, Kyle Pitts and Darnell Mooney for the 103 and Darren Waller. Kyle Pitts, 520, Darnell Mooney, 67 for a total of 587. The 103, 605, and Darren Waller, 103 for a total of 707. So 103 in a one quarterback league, I think we're still talking JSN, right? Like it's Bijan Gibbs, JSN.
Mm-hmm.
Is JSN, do you have JSN that much higher over Pitts? Like we're talking, I mean, it's only 80 points. I guess it's not as high as I was thinking in the first place, but what are your thoughts on Pitts versus JSN, I guess?
No, that one, yeah, I agree. That one's pretty close. And so JSN will be lower in the analyzer as well than 605 because the 103 is higher than the player itself because, you know, the whole... that
decently,
kind of
420.
Wow.
Oh, I'm in super flex. Never mind. Ignore me. Hold on. 1 QB tight end premium. 564.
There you go. So yeah, that's I think that they're pretty even overall.
Like you have to start the discussions about trading Pitts away. It's rough with rookie running backs. So like I feel like people won't Bijan definitely, but I think people would take Gibbs over Pitts just because he's a rookie running back and one that'll catch the ball.
I would. Yeah.
So that spot of JSN is where that conversation has to start with Pitts.
Right. But so here, if I think that Pitts and JSN are pretty even, I'm taking Waller over Darnell Mooney. There's just so much more upside there with Darren Waller to replace the tight end production that you're losing from Kyle Pitts, and you get a much, much better wide receiver in JSN. So this trade, the analyzers in it on it as well too, like 140 points, basically 130 points.
Yeah, I love this because if I'm a competing team, I am saying, all right, I like Kyle Pitts. Long term, he's definitely the more valuable player than Darren Waller, but I'm going to score me some points this year. Oh, and I'm getting a really good rookie wide receiver who might not help my team this year, but next year. And I'm not convinced that JSN won't be usable this year. I like probably wide receiver 3, lucky low end wide receiver 2, because I still think Lockett's going to be that second guy to DK. But especially if you play like a points per first down league, I think JSN's going to, like SFB, I think JSN's going to do really well. And then next year when Lockett's probably gone, moon for JSN. So yeah, I really like this trade. Like it's tough to get rid of Pitts, but if I'm going to do it, give me JSN and Darren Waller, and I'll feel okay about it.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so here we go. We're getting to the Dallas Goedert stuff. This is where I'm very, very curious about it. So the first trade is a 12-team super flex with a 0.5 tight end premium. Dallas Goedert and Tyjae Spears for Jordan Addison and Alan Lazard. Goedert coming in at 232, Spears 55 for a total of 287. Addison 297, love to see it. Alan Lazard 19 for a total of 316. I don't know, like to me, Goedert, like he's still only 28 on one of the best offenses in the league. You get a premium for all the catches he getting. Devonta and AJ Brown were Devonta and AJ Brown last year. They weren't bad. They weren't learning the offense. They weren't learning to mesh. They were just freaking great already, which means targets probably won't change that much, which means you're going to probably get probably close to 120-ish to Goedert, assuming he stays healthy again, because he likes to miss a couple of games with ankle injuries and stuff like that. But like, to me, that he should be worth more. And I guess that's why I can't get rid of him, because getting a round with 24 first for someone like Dallas Goedert just feels wrong. It's really fun. Like if you swapped this around and if it was Goedert and Lazard for Addison and Spears, I would probably just say like, all right, yeah, give me the rookies. But I think I want more on top of Addison if I'm giving away Goedert, even if I am That's a lie. Like at this point in my life where I can't get rid of Goddard, if someone in TI11 offered me Addison, I would take it in a heartbeat at this point. That's mostly because I feel defeated, not because I think it's right.
I think in a vacuum, Jordan Addison for Dallas Goedert is super, like they're valued so evenly in a tight end premium league. But I really, really like Dallas Goedert. He's one of my favorite tight ends that to buy this offseason because I feel like people, with the injury and stuff, and he did okay like in the playoffs when he came back after the injury. Like he was 5 for 58 and 1, 5 for 23, 6 for 60. Like he's a PPR kind of tight end. And in a tight end premium, those are the tight ends that get value bumps. And I really, really like Goddard because I feel like everybody's just so in on Hawk, so in on Pitts, so in even on like Darren Waller and George Kittle because he scored 11 touchdowns last year that Goddard just feels like he's kind of forgotten about. But from weeks 1 through 10 last year, before he got hurt, he was on a 17 game pace of 80 receptions for 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Which is
And
really freaking good.
yeah, like I feel like that would be a fantastic rookie season for Jordan Addison. And you're getting that type of production from a tight end, and you're getting an additional 40 fantasy points for the receptions in a tight end premium league. So it's just, I'm taking Dallas Goedert here. And you get the plus in the handcuff of Tyjae Spears, which is so much better than Allen Lazard.
You have one rookie on your team, and it's Anthony Richardson. How am I supposed to work with that?
I don't know, because your quarterbacks suck, and I don't want to trade down to any of them.
Oh, no, I wasn't even going to bother trying for that. No. Well, I mean, I have Stroud and Young, but
well,
that's not what you're looking for. Okay, so let's.
Are we doing a trade right now?
I was looking
for Dallas Goedert. I'm not gonna lie, I have the tab up with Dallas Goedert's name check marked on yours.
I'm staring at it. Like the only thing I could really think of right now is Goedert for a 24 first, and hell, give me the 25 second. If you don't, since you don't have a 24 second.
Nah, I'm keeping my first.
Well, if you're keeping your first, there's literally nothing on your team that I could trade for.
I'll give you Hollywood.
Cool.
He's close. He's basically the same as Jordan Addison. You love you some Hollywood.
I do, but not on a team this bad. I don't need a 26-year-old wide receiver.
I'll do Hollywood and the 25 second.
No.
Thought it would get you.
Not even. All right, so let's move on to the next Dallas Goedert trade because we're still talking about that. Dallas Goedert and the 12-team Superflex. Dallas Goedert and the 210 for a 24-second James Cook and Sam Laporta. Dallas Goedert 172, the 210 64 for a total of 235. 24-second 114, James Cook 98, Sam Laporta 78 for a total of 288.7. I really like Laporta, actually. And it's really funny. I traded for him a couple of days ago, and then the next day, that puff piece about the camp hype came out. And I'm like, yay, I got him at the right time. Not that I plan to flip him because I like him and I want him on my team, but like, I still don't think I do this. Like, this trade isn't very close to me. Like, this is nickels for $1, and it's not enough nickels to get to the dollar.
Yep. That's exactly how I viewed it as well, too. But I thought it was interesting because I saw that you made that Laporta trade. You gave up Swift for him.
Swift and a 25-second for Laporta and a 24-second.
Yeah, so
I got to move my second up here. And again, I talked about Swift last week or the week before on this show. Like I'm in danger of just being way too high on him. So I don't know how to trade him normally. So I probably overcorrected and, dropped his value a little too much. And then me liking Laporta fed into that also. But I do like Laporta. I think he has an average range of outcomes for Laporta could be Dallas Goedert, in an offense that is on its way up, where you have ASRB already. Maybe Jameson Williams becomes a thing. You have Laporta. If they just get a real quarterback, sky could be the limit for what this offense turns into. But then again, you don't you don't take the mystery box, you take the boat because you have a boat already. James Cook, I just whatever. And a 24-second is nice, but if I'm trading Dallas Goedert, the most valuable piece coming back to me is not going to be a 24-second.
Yeah, or James Cook.
All right, let's move on to Pat Freiermuth, who to me is a tier below Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is one of those guys that has a ceiling, that has the ceiling of finishing a season as a top 3 to 4 tight end. Muth isn't there for me yet. Part of it's the offense. Part of it is he just reminds me too much of, Heath Miller and Jason Witten, where he'll be good and he'll keep being good and then he'll keep being good. So he will forever be a top 8-ish tight end, but that doesn't mean anything really. That just means you feel good. You feel okay starting him every week, which I think you will, or at least on average. So okay, but he doesn't have that ceiling to me. Well, I guess I'll ask you now, keeping the homerism at bay as much as you can. Like, what are your thoughts on Muth's ceiling?
No, I agree. I don't think Muth has all that high of a ceiling. He's one of the guys that I'm very much in favor of moving away from because I feel like his dynasty value is higher than I think the production value that he's giving you. Because I think he is much closer to guys like Njoku and Ingram and all those other guys that you're like, well, I have an every week starter, but there's no real like ceiling or upside, and you're just hoping that he catches 2 touchdowns in a game, or you have that one game where he catches 7 receptions, But Muth, like for example, Muth last year, his 17, because he missed a game, but his 17 game pace, had he played that extra game, 104 targets, which is basically identical to Dallas Goedert's 17 game pace. 67 receptions, 778 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he's losing like 250 yards. The offense isn't as good, so he's not catching as many touchdowns. He's got a worse quarterback, so that's why his reception percentage, drops as well too on the same target total. So because he's not as athletic as Dallas Goedert. He's not in as good of an offense as Dallas Goedert. Doesn't have as good of a quarterback as Dallas Goedert. The ceiling isn't there for me. So Muth is one of those guys that I am just so ecstatic to be able to add something to and go up and get Goddard, go up and get Kittle, go up and get Pitts, or anybody else of that with a much higher ceiling.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The only, again, talk about niche leagues, I think he's probably very good in points per first down as well. Because, again, anecdotally, I didn't see any numbers, but whenever I watched the Steelers game, it just seemed like he's the only person to ever cut a ball over the middle. And he literally never cut a ball on the sideline. So, like, he's getting those 4 or 5 yards in a crowd. And sometimes they get you first downs more than likely. So, like, that's where I think he's more useful, but I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, you agreed with me, so clearly I'm with everything you said on Muth. So let's get to the trade. 12-team Superflex. Bringing back James Cook. Pat Freiermuth and James Cook for J.K. Dobbins and Marvin Mims. Muth coming in at 127, Cook at 98. J.K. Dobbins 290, Marvin Mims 65 for a total of 355. And there's no way I'm not picking a side that has Dobbins and Marvin Mims on it. So I'm very grateful that it is the right side also, because I really like both of those players. So I probably would have just biased my way to that side anyway. Like, I'm all in on J.K. Dobbins this season. And I was a fan of Mims. And then when he landed on the Broncos, it was just like,
perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty all in on that side and feel great about it.
Yeah, I would do this trade even without Marvin Mims. Like if this was just Muth and Cook to go up and get Dobbins.
Yeah, fair. Yeah,
I would still do that without Mims. Mims is just an added like cherry on top for this, because I feel like a lot of times with these types of tight ends, when you're talking about Kittle, Waller, Pitts, Muth, Goddard, that when you find a positional player that's kind of valued the same as them, more often than not, I feel like I choose the tight end side, just because you
onesie
get
position and premium,
right.
Yeah.
The onesie position, you don't really have to worry about streaming it. You just have a guy that you can start every single week. But Dobbins is so much better than Pat Freiermuth. Like there's a ceiling there. There's a higher floor there because he's a running back who's going to see probably minimum 12 touches a game. So everything is just better with J.K. Dobbins, and adding Cook to Muth does not move the needle for me
at all. No.
But real quick before you move on, I looked up first downs last year. Freiermuth was 4th in first downs among the tight end position.
Yeah.
So you were right.
Yeah,
You want to know who was 3rd? Dallas Goedert.
Nice.
In 3 fewer games. He had more first downs than Muth in 3 fewer games played.
Well, we've seen the completion percentage. That makes perfect sense. But no, like, yeah, that was good. Again, completely anecdotal. I was actually lucky to be right because it really looked like that. If the pass was over the middle, it was only to Freiermuth. Like no one else went over the middle when like that's where Deontay Johnson made his bread and butter 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or whatever that was at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So the next trade we have is Muth and Alexander Madison for Jahan Dotson, a 24-second, and David Njoku. Freiermuth coming in at 127, Madison 112. Caution, Team B is giving up the highest valued asset and the most pieces in the deal for a total of 238.5. Dotson at 211, 24-second, 114, Njoku at 73 for a total of 397. I don't know how different Muth and Njoku are. I think Muth is definitely safer, but I think the Cleveland offense is just going to be better. So even if Muth is better than Njoku, I think volume alone will even them out, in which case I'll take Dotson in the second over Madison, even though, man, Madison's probably going to score a lot of fantasy points this year.
That was the battle that I had in my brain of I really like Jahan Dotson over Freiermuth and Njoku for a second for Alexander Madison. Like, I feel like that's a price I would be willing to pay for Alexander Madison for the ceiling and upside that he has as the starter this year. Now, maybe he's not the starter next year, but I feel like at least for 2023, if he's getting a Dalvin Cook workload this year, he's going to be really, really good, So it's kind of that interior struggle for me of the 1 year upside in production from Alexander Madison versus I feel like you kind of have a more long-term approach with the Dotson side.
Yeah.
And I did say, when we first started talking about Muth, that I don't view him all that dissimilar from Evan Ingram and from David Njoku. So I agree with you there. And I would take Dotson over Madison. And then, so if you look at it that way, Dotson over Madison, and then tear down from Muth to Njoku, and you get a second, I think that clearly outlines the trade then that I would take the Dotson side.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was waiting to see if there was a trade that made like, all right, maybe I'll take Muth there, but like it's such a tier of tight ends I don't want to be in on. I like being lazy. I love not having to think about who to start. So having Muth isn't the worst thing in the world for me, but it's not one of those I feel good starting. It's one of those, at least I can be lazy.
Right. I have to one less brain cell to use to think about this position. And you just click the button, start.
Exactly. And then here's a couple. Oh, you added a good one too. Because tight end being such a weird little onesie position, and when it comes to tight end premiums, you want to care about it a little more. So I said, like we should throw in a couple, like the buzz around Okonkwo is still gigantic, even with DeAndre Hopkins. Wow, I can't believe I almost blanked on DeAndre Hopkins. # Team Clem is a big wide receiver. I'm sorry. Signing with the Titans and all of that stuff. And this one is super interesting because I do think this is rather even in a 12-team super flex with a 0.75 premium. Okonkwo straight up for Elijah Moore. And I like this because I think like towards the end of the year, Chig showed that he was Muth-esque in that he's one of those players that you could start every week and it's okay. He had a little bit of a ceiling that might be away. That might not be there as much this year, but we also don't know what that offense is going to look like. But even though I really do like Elijah Moore, and targets don't have too many places to go in Cleveland. Like, yeah, they have Amari. Yeah, they have Njoku.
Well, did you see the puff piece that came out? I forget if it was earlier today or yesterday, that with Amari Cooper, he's been out of training camp with an injury that's not supposed to be serious, but he's just been out for the first couple of days.
He doesn't need to be there.
Elijah Moore has been Deshaun Watson's favorite target by far in Amari Cooper's absence.
That is not surprising at all because Elijah Moore is very good. Like, maybe Elijah Moore's the right move because maybe next year they just get rid of Amari because they don't want to pay him anymore. And Elijah walks into that possession receiver role. I didn't say that out loud before. I like that. I have to go look up
Who has Elijah Moore in TA11?
I have to go look up Cooper's contract now just to see if he's cuttable next year. But if we're talking in a tight end premium league and I'm looking to get a tight end, I'll send Elijah Moore to go get Chig.
My fear with this one is we do this every single year. There's always that one or two tight ends that we hype up a lot that are not, they're not inside the top 12, but we want them to be inside the top 12 and break out and be that next breakout tight end. We do it every single year. And I'm worried that Okonkwo is that tight end this year, and he's not going to pan out because they never do.
But like at this price, does it I don't think you're hoping for tight end 5.
But
if he scores a solid 11 points a game, don't you think you feel fine with that, sending away Elijah Moore for that?
As long as Elijah Moore doesn't break out, then yeah.
Well,
like my fear here is, imagine if we just hopped into a time machine, went back to July 26, 2022, and we saw a trade in a 1.75 tight end premium that was Albert Okonkwo for Christian Kirk. And then we jumped back into our time machine to July 26, 2023, and now we talk about that trade now. Like that trade, that exact trade.
That was way too good of an argument to be off the cuff.
I was looking up wide receiver. I had Alberto as my comp, and I was looking up wide receivers that I was like, we were kind of meh on last year, and especially ones that
you bite your tongue. I was all in on Christian Kirk.
The community, there was hope and upside, but there was still that we're talking about Christian Kirk here, you know, and he was switching teams, which Elijah Moore just switched teams. It's that specific trade, I feel like was really realistic this time last year, and now it's really not realistic today because Alberto is just flamed out. And I feel like that could just easily happen to Okonkwo, and we'd be so much happier to have Elijah Moore this time next year.
That is absolutely a very valid, very fair, very good point. Like that's why we keep you here. Not because you run the channel and everything, just because you're good at it.
Thank you.
I mean, but let's use that Albert O to transition over to our next trade, because 12-team Superflex, the reason Albert O flamed out is because we had Greg Dulcich out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. So Greg Dulcich for AJ Dillon. Dulcich in at 86, AJ Dillon 102.1. See, again, I'm going to stick with this and feel okay sending AJ Dillon for Dulcich because I've never been the biggest Dillon fan. Aaron Jones still exists. Dillon is 25, and that offense, even if it's good, it can't be great. It just can't be. In which case, give me a piece on an offense that should get better because it can't get worse than it was last year in Denver. So, I think I take the risk. Again, all of this assuming I missed out on tight ends and I have no way of getting anyone in these higher tiers. I don't think you have the risk what you were talking about before with Elijah Moore. I don't think we have that in AJ Dillon.
Right.
So I feel, even after your very good argument where I still think I take a shot of, I'd be cool if I took that shot for Moore for Okonkwo, meaning that my overall shares are pretty even. I don't think I second guess sending Dillon for Dulcich.
This one, I do agree with that. I don't know what the difference is, but I feel more confident in Dulcich than Okonkwo. Maybe
Dulcich was putting up 17, 20 points a game in that bad offense.
He was able to do that. And maybe, I just feel more confident in Dulcich's ability to be higher up on the totem pole in Denver, because I think that he should be above Cortland Sutton in the totem pole. It's really just him and Jerry Jeudy, whereas Okonkwo has to, compete with Hopkins and Burks now on a run first team where they're already limited in terms of the total pie of targets that they have. Whereas Dulcich, the whole Sean Payton thing, can he be the tight end whisperer with Greg Dulcich again? And, and AJ Dillon, I agree with you, is not Elijah Moore either. There's upside for sure, but I feel like I've been snake bitten by that upside 3 years in a row now with AJ Dillon of this is finally the year where he has to be better than Aaron Jones, and he's not better than Aaron Jones because Aaron Jones is really freaking good.
Really good.
So
if Aaron Jones were gone, it would be different, because regardless of how the talent level, AJ Dillon with that workload is going to do well because he's a very big dude. And not to say he is Derrick Henry, but he would Derrick Henry people where even if he was bad for the first 3 quarters, he's probably getting 100 yards and a touchdown just in that last quarter because he will just wear them down. But he doesn't get the ball enough for that to happen. And
in that same frame of argument, would you send Alexander Mattison for Greg Dulcich, a player who has lost his veteran and is projected that workload?
No. I would absolutely keep Madison over that. Yeah.
I agree.
If I'm getting rid of Madison, it has to be for youth. I can't comprehend selling a running back who I only really value a year at a time anyway for what we've been hoping for. Like, we wanted Cook to leave so Madison could just be the dude there. I don't care if it's long term because it's going to be this year. Why give that up for Dulcich in general? Even if it's tight end premium with, 12 teams, it's not enough of a positional advantage where me starting a dude in Alexander Mattison, who I probably barely paid anything to have on my squad for that. Like, to me, just holding on to Madison, unless I am getting a young wide receiver, I don't see moving for someone like Dulcich.
I agree.
Last trade we have, and this, I have been trying to get Juwan Johnson on all of my rebuilding teams because
I don't really know why, but okay.
He's another instance of, well, first of all, the price you pay for him, which we'll get to in a second. And when you're in a league that has a 0.75 premium, one of the easiest ways to gain value is to just shotgun young tight ends and hope one of them hits. And they go from costing the 311 and Michael Carter, and then maybe you get a late first, early second for him. Like, that's process in a tight end premium league when you're rebuilding. Plus, Juwan Johnson, again, did pretty well on a bad offense. Like, he should, games when Chris Olave was hurt, Juwan Johnson was the only guy to catch the ball, which means there should have been about 6 defenders on him, and he was still catching the ball.
Well, that doesn't matter because he's like 6'9". He's 6'4", but it seems like he's like 6'9".
Yeah. So again, this isn't someone I think is going to break into that even Hawkinson Goedert level. But if you spend the 311 and Michael Carter and you end up with Freiermuth, I think you feel great about it. But also, Johnson's more athletic on an offense that you are hoping is at least, again, going in the right direction. Now they have Olave, they have Juwan Johnson, they have an actual-ish quarterback. So I have, I like the direction the offense is going in. I like the player. And it really comes down to the price. I've been trying to pay multiple thirds to go get Johnson. It's worked once or twice. But I liked Michael Carter so much. But, how am I supposed to be mad that Breece Hall exists? I can't be mad about it. So, yeah, there's every world where I would send the 311 and Michael Carter to go get Juwan Johnson on the tight end premium team for sure.
Yep. Johnson, to me, I don't like Juwan Johnson. I'm letting everybody else just enjoy what they want with Juwan Johnson, because to me, he just feels like Dawson Knox. He feels like Bob Tunyon, where it's just he caught 7 touchdowns last year on 40 receptions, and that's I don't want to go after, I don't see the upside there of him growing to be a guy who can catch 60, 70, 80 receptions and still maintain that touchdown workload. I don't see what John
does. He have to keep those touchdowns if he's getting 60, 70 catches? 2 less touchdowns, but 20 more catches. He's still getting extra points, especially in a premium.
Yeah, well, premium, then 12 more.
I believe I just said more points. That is all I said, and that was factually correct.
You are technically correct, which is the worst kind of correct. But
hey, that is not the quote. It is the best kind of correct.
Well,
but also, again, these are the kind of tight ends that in most leagues, especially leagues I'm competing in, I don't go after. just give me Kelsey and call it a day. Like that's
Very
really my world. It is really just, oh, I want to win, just give me Kelsey. I will pay for Kelsey. It's fine. And because I also believe he will play at this level for as long as he wants to. So the only reason I'm concerned is if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, I'm concerned because either he wins and he just goes out on a back-to-back win, or he loses and gets angry and retires. You know, like that's the only thing I'm worrying about with Kelsey. I'm not worrying about a cliff. I'm not worrying about any of like falling off. I'm not worried about any of that. It's just when he decides to stop playing.
Well, did you see my Travis Kelsey tweet from like a few days ago? That
I have you
was
blocked. You know this.
That's true. I'm sorry. I apologize. But the tweet was that if Travis Kelsey follows Anthony, why did I say Anthony? His name is
Gonzalez?
Anthony. Tony Gonzalez's career, that means that he has 4 more top 6 seasons in him. And I think 3 of those were top 2.
Right?
So we have 4 more seasons of Travis Kelsey if he decides to play as long as Tony Gonzalez did.
I hate tight ends. Why did we talk about tight ends? Oh, yeah, my idea. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for hanging around with us. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at Amaze Hayes _ DLF Trade Show, DLF YouTube channel. We're awesome. So keep watching and all that stuff, and we'll catch you next time.